The use of computing devices and applications continues to proliferate into all aspects of our lives. Does the use of these applications makes us more knowledgeable or more empowered? Or do they make our lives more complex with added frustrations? The answer to these questions depends not only on the functionality provided, but also on how easy it is to understand and use these applications. As a developer, you must have a deep understanding of users, applications, devices, techniques, and principles to build effective user interfaces. The user interface or user experience or UX is a broad concept that applies to all aspects of a person's interaction with a product or service. When the product is a software application, UX includes actions, responses, perceptions, and feelings that a person has when he uses or anticipates using the software application. It is important for designers to think about the overall user experience as they consider the design of the new system and particularly the user interface. The user interface is a set of inputs and outputs that directly involve an application user. It is the part of the system that the user sees and interacts with. Because the user interface is the only part of the system that the users see, to them the user interface is the system. UI design varies widely depending on such factors as interface purpose, user characteristics, and characteristics of a specific interface design. For example, although all user interfaces should be designed for a maximal ease of use, other considerations such as operational efficiency may be important for internal users who can be trained to use specific interface optimized for a specific hardware device such as keyboard, a mouse, and a large high-resolution display. In contrast, a quite different user interface might be designed for a customer-accessible system that assumes a cell phone as the input-output device. Sometimes, developers think the user interface can be developed and added to the system near the end of the development process. But as noted in the previous lesson, the user interface is much more important than that. The user interface is a major element in the total user experience. Both the considerations related to the user experience and the details of the user interface must be integrated into all elements of the system development. Developers must be aware that everything that the user sees or does while using the system is part of the user interface and affects the user experience. Because from a user perspective, a user interface is the entire system. To the user, the programs, scripts, databases, and hardware behind the interface are almost irrelevant. In fact, good system design makes all of these elements transparent to the user. Design techniques that embody this point of view are collectively called user-centered design, which emphasizes three important principles. Focus early and throughout the project on the users and their work. Evaluate designs to ensure usability and use of iterative development. An early focus on users and their work is consistent with the approach to system analysis in this text. User-oriented analysis and design tasks are performed early as possible and are often given higher priority than other tasks. For example, such user-oriented analysis tasks as stakeholder identification and interviews occur early in the project. User interfaces are designed in early iterations, and user-related design decisions drive other design decisions and tasks. The second principle of user-centered design is to evaluate designs to ensure usability. Usability refers to how easy a system is to learn and use. Ensuring usability isn't easy. There are many different types of users with different preferences and skills. If the system has a variety of end users, how can the designer be sure that the interface will work well for all of them? For example, if it is too flexible, some end users might feel lost. On the other hand, if the interface is too rigid, some users will be frustrated. Furthermore, ease of learning and ease of use are often in conflict. For example, menu-based applications with multiple forms, many dialog boxes, and extensive prompts and instructions are easy to learn. Indeed, they are self-explanatory. Easy-to-learn interfaces are appropriate for systems that end users use infrequently. But if internal users use the system all day, it is important to make the interface fast and flexible, with shortcuts, hotkeys, voice commands, and information-intensive screens. The second interface might be harder to learn, but it will be easier to use after it is learned. The third principle of user-centered design is iterative development. That is, doing some analysis and then some design and then some implementation and then repeating the process. After each iteration, the project team evaluates the work on the system to date. Iterative development keeps the focus on the user by continually returning to the user requirements during each iteration and by evaluating the system after each iteration. Jacob Nielsen, Donald Norman, and Bruce Tognazzini are active researchers in human-computer interaction, or HCI, a field of study concerned with the efficiency and effectiveness of user interfaces to computer systems. Human-oriented input and output technology and the psychological aspects of user interfaces. HCI is a broad field with many closely related fields of study, including interaction design, efficiency, ergonomics, societal impacts, psychological influences, and so forth. Although the actual computing devices that people use are physical entities, the items that appear on the screens are virtual entities. They exist only as images and sounds. Because of this, it is helpful for HCI developers to use metaphors based on real-world physical entities and actions to design a user interface with a positive user experience.